chair today. Okay. I was planning to teach a very, very short mimer called Mi Ben Esra. The problem is that it's so Kabbalistic and it's so based on so many ideas that I don't think that... see? Kimt eroylem. Oh no, I don't know. In the morning, I don't know anything. We'll see what's going to happen. Okay, so it's Pashas Bamidbar. And Pashas Bamidbar, of course, always is an introduction to Shavuos. It's always the Shabbos before Shavuos. Sometimes Pashas Nasa is the Shabbos before Shavuos. In any case, we were going to learn a little mimer called Mi Ben Esrim, which is one of the memorim of Likutei Torah that I didn't teach yet. Oops, this is a little too... Why is it so hot? I know, they switched it. That's what it was. Okay. Let me shut this. Okay. So, but I realized if I'm just going to teach this Mi Ben Esrim mimer, it's going to be, I think we're going to be a little lost. So the Mi Ben Esrim is really a short little explanation on the previous mimer, on the previous discourse, which is very, very, very powerful. But that too has a beer. Now we learned the beer, I think, in an earlier year. But I'm going to relearn that beer, which this beer is a beer on the beer, which means an explanation on the explanation. Okay, so just in short. In the parsha it says you should raise the heads of the Jewish people legilgaloisam to their skull, which is a strange thing, to raise the heads of the Jewish people to their skull. So usually when we say, the simple meaning is that you should take a head count. So Rosh Yisroel means you should take a head count. That's what they did. They counted the Yidden. You're not allowed to count people. So instead of counting the people, they counted the shekel. Everybody gave a half a coin, and they counted the coins, and via the coins, they had the amount of the people. But obviously, every word in Torah is very, very significant. What is this meaning that you should... The words, if you translate the words in the literal sense, su'u means you should lift up. Su'u es roish means you should lift up the head. Legilgaloisam to their skulls, which is a very strange thing. Because this is the skull, right? What does it mean to lift the head to the skull? Hopefully the skull is attached to the head. So what does it mean? And usually, see, you remember. And usually when we say head, the head includes the skull. What does it mean to lift the head to the skull? So the idea is as follows. In addition to counting people, this mitzvah in the beginning of Parshas Bamidbar is really it's a commandment or an empowerment that the Eibishter Hashem gave Moshe Rabbeinu to elevate the spiritual status of the Jewish people. Is that Yidden should experience a type of love, a type of connection to Hashem that is way beyond anything they were capable of doing before. So this is like a relationship upgrade. This lifts the relationship to a whole deeper level. And that is as follows. Let me just, in short words, it would mean something like this. We, Yidden, are, in essence, we're all souls. And if we are souls, we're really divine beings. But when our neshamas come down into this world, our neshamas become enclosed in bodies. And when we become enclosed in bodies, we become human beings. So we are really divine beings enclosed in human beings. And the ordinary mode of functioning is we function as human beings. That means human beings are entities, creatures, beings, intellectual creatures, intelligent creatures, that use their intelligence to direct them in their life to to steer, whichever way you're steering in your life. And the general rule is that a person is mainly driven by their emotions. Emotions are excitement. And where your excitement is, that's where your energy is. I mean, a person can follow their mind, purely their mind, but if there's no excitement there, if there's no emotional energy, then they're very dry and very dead. The real passion, the real energy, the real excitement, the real power lies where there is emotion. That's why in Torah there is so much emphasis on love, loving Hashem, or fearing Hashem. But there has to be an emotion. It's not enough just what we call dry, mechanical service, robotic kind of a Judaism. Well, you just go by the road, Pesach, Shavuos, because everybody does the things, and you just follow along in that grind. We're supposed to work on discovering something deeper, right? So how do we usually function? So we study. That's why you came to a shiur. You want to learn something. You want to hear something new. You want to discover a new rich idea. And this rich idea will hopefully get you excited for Yom Tov. Will stimulate some kind of an excitement. And then that excitement is. So the general mode of a human being is what we'd say, and that makes a human being different than an animal. An animal is a complete instinctive creature, impulsive creature. It follows its natural emotions. An animal can't change their emotions. An animal can't refine their love. A cow is born when they're very young. It gravitates towards grass in the field, and that's about it. A cow never reaches a point where he says, you know what? I'm interested in studying philosophy. It never happens in the world of a cow. Its passions, its excitements will always be to the same stuff it was when it was 2 years old or 1 year old. And that's the way it will be. I don't know how long cows live. Depends if they're milk-giving cows or they're going to be shechted or whatever their story is. But the cows, a cow is a cow. That's what it is. An animal can't change its emotions. It's kind of stuck and remains within a certain framework of emotion. A human being has an intellect. As a result of his intelligence, he or her can steer their emotions. And that's what our life is. As we grow older and we mature, we begin to appreciate through our mind more refined elements, things that are, hopefully we grow up. Some people can remain childish. But hopefully when we grow up, we begin to see things differently, understand and appreciate certain things, and therefore we gravitate, hopefully, to things that are deeper and more meaningful. And obviously in our Yiddishkeit, we grow to a more meaningful relationship with Judaism, with Torah and mitzvahs, which really means growing in a more meaningful relationship with Hashem, all based on our mind. So we will use our mind. Now, the more a person will apply their mind to grasp, to understand the magnificence of one's creator, the more we get excited about the Eibishter's unbelievable creation, and therefore how awesome he must be. So that will stimulate. Because really there's a question, everybody asks the question. They say, the pasuk says you should love, v'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha. You should love God. You should love Hashem. Love Hashem. I can tell you to do something. I can't tell you to love something. Either I love or I don't love. You can't command a love. A love is a feeling. You can't force someone to love something. You can force someone. Like my mother can force me when I was a kid to eat spinach. She couldn't force me to love the spinach. Either I love it or I don't. I like it, I dislike it. She can't make me love the spinach, but she can make me eat it. Right? So loving is a much deeper element, which requires... So therefore the question is, how can Hashem command us, a mitzvah, to love Him? So it is explained, the commandment is not on the love, because you can't command love. The commandment is, you should study and learn and focus your mind on Hashem, and you will love Him. Because Hashem is lovable. As soon as you get to know Him, you'll love Him. So the mitzvah is know Him. Now, obviously, you can't know Him. You can know Him from His creations. By meditating, like the Rambam says, how does one come to love Hashem? By a person examining, thinking, and looking at the magnificence of all of the creation. And through that, a person comes to an understanding and appreciation of the Eibishter. Yeah. You look into all the good he has done for you. Yeah. So you look into all the good. Yeah. It's that sense of gratitude. You see the good that he has done for yourself, but then you also, obviously, thinking, the Rambam says, look at how awesome of a creation Hashem created. You get to start appreciating his power, his greatness, his goodness. But again, so that's the commandment. And then the love will come automatically if you'll apply your mind. So it basically is saying, give Hashem 5 minutes a day. Give Hashem 5 minutes a day. When we say give Hashem, meaning not Hashem's mitzvahs. Give Hashem himself 5 minutes a day. Think about Hashem, and you'll come to love it. Hopefully, if you increase it to 10 minutes, you'll love him more. And that's the difference between those Yidden who loved Hashem, tzaddikim who had powerful love of Hashem. They paid attention. They think about him a lot. And the more you think about him, the more you'll love. All that is being human being, not yet a godly being. Because you're using your mind to stimulate love of your heart to Hashem. But then there's a much higher level. And the much higher level is as follows. Because what you can meditate on, what you can get to know of Hashem, obviously is not Hashem himself. Because Hashem himself, no entity can know him, who he truly is. As I mentioned earlier, we can only know his actions. It's like an artist that you can't get up and personal with him. You don't know the artist's deep world. It's like a person, like any professional. His wife and his children know him deeply. People on their street know him as a professional. They know him from his work. But his wife will say, well, you might know, you don't really know him, my husband. You know certain things he does. I know him deeply. Hopefully, when she knows him deeper, she knows something more good about him than, right? Hopefully, she has a certain richness and an appreciation of something much deeper. And with Hashem, it's that way. We can know Hashem's actions, but Hashem infinitely transcends his actions. So when it comes to getting up and personal with God, you can't do that. But that's where the Jew comes in. That's the limitation that all of humanity has. The rest of the world has that limitation. Not just humanity, even Malachim. Even though Malachim are much greater than humans, but they're all still part of the created realm. And therefore, they can only know Hashem as the creator of the universe. They can't know Hashem as true being. A Neshamah is a chelak l'kayim imal. That's the chiddush of a Neshamah. A Neshamah is unique and different than all other creatures and all other beings, in that a Neshamah is a little piece of God from above. So intrinsically, the Neshamah knows Hashem in a way that no other being can know Hashem. It doesn't have to know it intellectually. It's more like the Neshamah gravitates to Hashem like a child gravitates to a parent. It's not because the child has a sophisticated knowledge. Take a look at a 1-year-old baby that mommy has left him for a moment, or for 5 minutes, or doesn't see. A 2-year-old child doesn't see where their mother is, or their father is, and they're suddenly amongst a bunch of strangers. They'll start crying, and all they want, they're running like they need to be together with their mother. It's not a sophisticated intellectual knowledge. It's an instinctive knowledge. This week I saw something that was so sad. It was sad and on the other hand beautiful, but it was sad the way it happened. It was in the news. There was a deer that was killed on the road. And a person heard a crying sound. A sound of and he went out in the morning and he saw, he heard the crying sound twice. In the morning when he came back from work, he heard it again. So he went out and he found a little fawn sitting next to the mother. The mother Nebuch was killed in the car. And the baby was literally weeping that its mother is just trying to connect to the mom, no mom. So then they rescued the baby, they took it to a shelter, so it has a happy ending. But sad, the mother was killed. In any case, there is what we call a bond between a child and a parent that is not based on an appreciation of the quality of the other person. At that age, the child, or you talk about the deer, the parental, that relationship, It's not because my mother is the greatest mom in the world. Nothing to do with that. It's just because we are made up of the same essence. It's not intellectual. It's just a child soul gravitates to the parent. That's a whole different level of love. A neshama has such a kind of a love with Hashem. Because a neshama is a little piece of Hashem, the neshama loves Hashem also with a love that transcends the mind. It's not based on reason. It's not based on knowledge. This love is infinitely more powerful because it's a love coming from the essence. There's no because, it just is. How much does the neshama love? With all of its being. In davening we say, "V'haftas Hashem Elokecha," you should love Hashem b'chol levavcha, with all your heart. Then it says, more than all your heart. B'chol nafshecha, with all your soul. And then it says, even more than with all your soul. B'chol ma'odcha, love Hashem. Ma'od means a lot, much. Love Hashem with all your much. Love beyond the capacity of your heart. Love beyond the capacity of your soul. Love, be driven with a love to Hashem that's infinite. How is that possible? That's because you're not loving, it's almost like you're being pulled. It's like so you take a small fire and you put it next to a big blaze, the small fire, the small flame jumps to the big. It's being pulled like a magnet. A neshama really, in essence, pulls to Hashem not because of any reason, just naturally. Now usually, this level of love, by most people, it's not actualized. With Hashem, with our parents, when we're a child, yeah. But with Hashem, we usually don't feel this. This is not something that we can tap into. It's not something we experience. It's our potential. It's there, embedded deep in the heart and soul of every Jew. But we're not conscious of it. We're not aware of it. Where do we see it come out? The only time it does come out by every Jew, even the lowest of the low, even people that seem not to have any relationship with Hashem, ever, like people that are non-religious or they weren't brought up with religion, non-observant, stuff like that. You see that when someone is threatening their Jewishness and wants to chas v'shalom, tell them they can't be a Jew or they're not Jewish or they're whatever, they get very angry and very upset. It's like, don't tell me I'm not a Yid. Or you saw throughout all the ages when Yidden when people tried to chas v'shalom force Jews to forsake their Judaism, accept Christianity or whatever it was, you had Jews, simple Jews that decide at that moment gave their life up al Kiddush Hashem, and it was by the thousands. This is our. Thank God. Thank the Eibishter. It's foreign to us today because we don't have any more of those nisyanis. It's foreign to us that Yidden are dying al Kiddush Hashem. I mean, 6 million died al Kiddush Hashem, but that was not a choice. I'm talking about earlier during the Crusaders, during the Inquisition, during the Jews were massacred, and they had a choice. They could go to church and be baptized, and they weren't going to do it. And what is that? That's because a Jew is inseparable. At that moment, there's nothing dearer to him and to her than their relationship with Hashem. And in order not to sever that relationship, in order not to cut their attachment to Hashem, they're giving up on everything that's dear to them, including their life and even their family and everything. They can't. That's this bond. So it will only reveal itself at a life-threatening moment. Generally, we don't tap that love. But there are tzaddikim who have refined themselves so much and have so purified their lives, their bodies, that their earthy body and physical existence doesn't conceal their neshama. To the point that the neshama can emerge as the neshama is without any limitations or any. And like you find tzaddikim that their love to Hashem was like a burning fire that had no end to it. Like Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev, his love and his fire in davening and his love to Hashem was was legendary. And these the students, the Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, you saw their Avos Hashem was like it was crazy. Like it reaches a point where you call it's a certain level of madness. You say, calm down, relax, but it's madness. It's like being madly in love. person becomes madly in love. It's like you lose your mind. It's craziness. That's type of love. It's beyond seichel. That's called the skull. The reason why it's called the skull is because it's the highest point of the Jew. And it's above your mind. Your mind can't understand it. Your mind can't process it. So when it says this week in the parasha, lift the heads of the Jewish people to their skull, now we have a whole different meaning. It means upgrade your consciousness from having a ratzon, from having a desire to God that's based on reason, on logic, that's all based on your mind. Upgrade your love to your skull. Start loving Hashem the way, with this infinite transcendental love that's beyond your seichel and beyond your mind. So this is what he's explaining over here, is the idea of this empowerment. And really that's what Shavuos is all about. Because Shavuos is when we fall madly in love with the Eibishter. Shavuos is the time of Matan Torah. It's that, what happened by Matan Torah? When the Eibishter spoke, we all passed out. So it wasn't out of fear. When he spoke, it was because the intensity of the desire to get close to him was so intense that the neshamas just popped out of the body. The body couldn't hold them, and Hashem had to put them back. So the whole idea of Shavuos is this intense love to Hashem that's beyond all reason, and that's one of the reasons when it says Hashem held a mountain over them. Obviously, it means physically, he held the mountain over them, but the real deeper meaning is, in Kabbalah, it says that mountain is love. And when Hashem came down on Har Sinai, he allowed them to feel his love to them. When the people felt his love, that was like an overpowering mountain over their heads. They had no choice, almost like he took away their bechira. They had to receive the Torah. They had to accept it because they were so powerfully enthralled. They were pulled in with this maddening love. And every year, Shabbos before Shavuos, we get an empowerment, and this year even more so because it's 3 days. It's Shabbos, Shavuos. So on Erev Shavuos, on Shabbos, Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the biggest, who is the root of all neshamas, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the tzaddik. He is the one who is commanded by Hashem. Share with them your kind of love that you have to me. Su'u es roish b'nei Yisrael, lift the heads of the Jewish people up, legilgaloisam, to their skulls. Later in the part that I wanted to learn tonight, the short little mimer called me Ben Esrim Shana, is where he's going to explain that in order for a person to reach that kind of a level of connecting to this transcendental love, which is beyond seichel, beyond reason, it requires a first full development of the mind, and only after you have a full development of the mind can you go beyond the mind. And that's why that's why only from 20 years old we're counted. Because the Gemara says that the full maturity of the mind is only when someone reaches 20. The Gemara says that at which point does a child's financials transactions have a legitimate significance? If a child goes and sells something, at which point? So the Gemara goes through various different stages. The Gemara says for a child to be able to sell real estate, a teenager can't do it. A teenager sale is not a sale until they're 20 years old. That's when they can sell. Oh, so I think it's talking about, it might be, I'm not sure, I have to know exactly the parameters of the halacha, but it might be talking about when a teenager is, when an orphan, okay? He has a Yerusha, he's an orphan. So when he's 13 years old and he goes and he sells the building, he wants cash, he wants to drive around nice cars and he's a 16-year-old kid and his father's got himself a couple of buildings, so he wants to sell the buildings, now he's going to get all the cash he wants. So the Beis Din doesn't allow that to happen until he's 20 years old. When he's 20 years old, he's on his own. Why? So the Arizal says the reason is because simply because he doesn't have the full development of mind. But that's spiritually as well, that the full power of the mochin only develop when you're 20. So in order to be able to reach a level that's beyond the mind, you first need a completion of the seichel as well. And that is when they're 20 years old. Okay, but let's first read the piece before that, which I learned already a few years ago. And let's see how that works, and then we'll see if we get to this part. Bir advarim, the explanation of the matter. It's on page number 2, the second column. There's 2 levels of ratzon. There's 2 levels of ratzon. Meaning there's 2 levels of drive. Ratzon means not just the will, it means will and drive. Ratzon hanoilad min hadas, the lower level of ratzon, of desire, of drive, is drive that is born from one's mind, from one's knowledge, v'haskala, and from one's intelligence, lefi amaka sichloi, in accordance to a person's deepening of one's mind, shetoifes umasik, a person is able to grasp and to understand, al derech mashal, by way of analogy, eiches ha'atava sheyiyaloi min hadavar. A person can come and estimate or evaluate and appreciate the quality of the good that he or she will achieve from having something. So for a person can be driven to pursue a certain career, right? To pursue a certain career, you have to put yourself through school. To put yourself to school takes a lot of discipline. You need a lot of discipline. You have to be up nights. All your friends are having a good time, and you're sitting and studying because you need to get good grades. You need a lot of discipline. In order to have all that discipline, you have to have a lot of drive. And what creates that drive? The willpower. And what creates the willpower? The willpower is your appreciation of what's going to be when you're going to get that degree. I'm going to get the degree, and I'm going to become a lawyer. Then I'm going to be already a somebody. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to have a this. I'm going to have a that. Oh, so the greater the appreciation of the person of the goodness that they're going to have by so and so will create the drive, which will later give them the energy. So that's one level of drive. Drive that's created, or will that is a derivative and a product of the mind. That the mind appreciates the quality of the good that comes from the thing. Sometimes you try to become a friend with someone. You know, a new person moves into the block, you see the person in shul, something tells you that this is a good person to be connected to. And sometimes it has to do with the person right away started scheming and making things like what I can get out of that person. This is a person, he's a real knacker, get to know this guy, be able to do business with him, ahead, ahin, connected good, he's got these, he's in the circle of the inner, of the, this is a good person. Whatever cheshboinus, it's a calculation when you want to get to know someone or befriend someone or whatever reason, or in any kind of relationship. You meet someone, you appreciate what's the qualities of that individual so that you want to build a relationship. And that is all based on your mind estimating and evaluating. So again, in accordance to how powerful or how much you appreciate the goodness that you will get as a result of getting close to this achievement, this person, this phenomenon, this object, whatever it is. How much do you want the new iPhone? Right? So if you read about it, and you saw, this is a really cool camera, this can take such pictures, or it has certain crazy things that the old iPhone couldn't do. So you say, so you get excited. So you don't have the money, you'll put away some money, and then you'll go. How excited would you get? Depending on how much you appreciate it. That's everything. Kachat is gadol hachuka. That will create a greater desire for this entity. Now when it comes to God, when it comes to the Eibishter, which we all have to love him, and we want to love, the greatest entity to love. So the problem with Hashem is, you can't know him. There's no thought that grasps him. Who can grasp Hashem? Hashem is not graspable in any mind. Not even in the mind of the highest malachim, of the highest celestial beings. They can't even know it. So what does the Rambam say? The Rambam says, how do you come to love Hashem? Like I said earlier, you contemplate Hashem's actions. You can't know Him, but you can know what He produced. He spoke a couple of sentences, and this is the result of it. The universe. Just from a few sentences, and this is what He produced. Wow, that's someone I want to be in a relationship with. Ella bihispashtis gedulasai. You can meditate and appreciate the expansion of His greatness. Ubahamokes hadavar. And when you think about this, a little longer, you think about this deeply, noilad mizeh, you cold? Okay. Noilad mizeh, it can produce hatshuka believe. It creates a longing in the heart. However, we're going to see soon, this is called the external heart. Bechitziniyusai, the outer heart. You will love, and it might be a very fiery love, but it's considered the outer heart. And what do we mean by that? Any kind of love that you can create in your life, that means you had a period in your life that you didn't love that thing. That you didn't love, you had no relationship with it because it's not part of you. You now got new information, came into your psyche, new ideas came into your mind. You became aware of something worthy of your attention, and you develop love. Anything that you brought into your existence at a certain point, which means these are not intrinsic things in you, like the love for your children, which are intrinsic, anything, it will only touch you on a more outer layer of your being. Even though on that outer layer of your being, you can be very, very, very turned on, very, very passionate, very driven, very excited. So it can even occupy your thought and your mind all day long. You heard about this new show that's going on, this concert, this singer that's coming to town, this, I don't know, something that you really are excited about, this new business. It can really, really consume you, but the question is, how deep is it going into your inner core? Not necessarily. Chitzonius alev, the external heart. As opposed to those things that really mean a lot to you, because they're not something that you acquire from the outside. These are things that are related to your essence. As we said earlier, your connection to your parents, your connection to your children, your bond with Hashem. These are very, very deep, core, essential entities. They touch you, what we call in pnimius alev, the inside of the heart. In the Beis Hamikdash, there were two mizbeachs. It was an outside mizbeach where they offered all the karbanos, and there was an inside mizbeach where they offered only the ketores, the spices. So why the Beis Hamikdash is like it says in many places, like a human. Everything like the Aron is the brain. What's the mizbeach? The mizbeach is the heart. What's the heart? The heart is passion, fire. That's why what was on the mizbeach, fire. But we know the outer mizbeach represents the outer heart. The inner mizbeach represents the inner heart. So this type of a love that a yid develops to Hashem, based on one's mind, understanding and appreciating the greatness of Hashem. Now here's an interesting thing. When you're getting to know Hashem on this level, since we said before you can't get to know Him, you can only know things about Him from what He does. So what are you getting to know? You're getting to know His chitzonius, God's external. As you get to know God's external, you're getting excited, because His external is very, very excitable. What do I mean is His power in creation. It's something magnificent. But where is it coming from? It's coming from your mind. It's not coming from your essence. It's coming from your mind. So therefore, and you're falling in love with Him. From where? Your external is connecting to His external. It's all chitzonius. Now obviously, halavaya finds alle gesagt such chitzonius. Our chitzonius is caught up, as I said last week, with potato chips. We want a chitzonius that's caught up with God, but still it's chitzonius because it's still in the outer realms of a relationship. You're connecting to Hashem like a stranger is connecting. We're family. We're much deeper than a stranger. But in order to discover the family dimension, you have to discover your Neshamah. Our Neshamah is family with Hashem. We're children. That's our Neshamah. But as long as our consciousness is not our Neshama consciousness, so we're still, I said earlier, we're still operating as human beings, not as divine beings. We're not conscious yet of our divine spark. Then our relationship with God is a chitzoniistic relationship. It is coming from your heart. The mind produces, it's not originating in the heart. It's originating in the mind that's stimulating the heart. Ki alev yochai lias keli, because the heart is able to be a keli, lekabel orzeh, to receive this light, hamispashet besichloi. That's this light that's first illuminating one's intellect. From the intellect, it's going down into the emotions. Ki amoyach shalet al alev. How is it, Taka, that the heart changes from potato chips to loving God? How does that happen? That's why we have a rule that mind rules over the heart. Hashem created us with that kind of a system. It doesn't mean it happens naturally. We have to work. But when we study and learn, put your mind into good things, your heart will slowly change. You'll become less materialistic and more driven towards higher spiritual ends. So if you put your mind in Hashem, you'll start loving the Eibishter a little more. I saw a cute story. It's Chassidish Maisa. We have to say it over Alachayim, but it's Danom from the Maisa. Okay, this doesn't go out of here, right? Here's the good story. That by the Alter Rebbe, Zalman of Liadi, that was the early days of the Chassidim. So the Chassidim were just becoming Chassidim. Because the Chassidic movement was a new movement. So this person, he became a Chassid. So I think his shver got very upset because he came and he said that he sees that his son-in-law is learning less. He used to learn more, and now he's learning, spending less time learning Torah. And then, so the Alter Rebbe said to him like this: "No, doesn't learn now at all." He says, "No, he does learn. He learns 2-3 hours." So the Alter Rebbe said like this. He said, "Listen." Before, he said, 2 hours he learned for the shver. Another 2 hours he learned for the shvigger. Another 2 hours he learned for his wife. No, and 2 hours he learned for the Eibishter. So now he says, it became a chassid. He doesn't learn for the shver anymore. He doesn't learn for the shvigger anymore. He doesn't learn for his wife anymore. So the 2 hours that he learns for the Eibishter, that maybe increased a little bit more. So he got from 2 to 3 and learned from Eibishter. And this is the idea that the heart, the more, why? Because Chassidus is studying about the Eibishter. That's what so it'll attract you more of a chitzoniistic thing to a more pneumistic thing, to be connected. In any case, the mind rules over the heart. That the Eibishter makes himself known through the gateways of the mind. Shar, sha'ara means the gates. Her husband makes himself known to her and therefore attracts her through her mind. It means, her referring to every neshama, every person. Hashem makes himself known as much as we're through the sha'arim of Nun share bina, through our understanding. This type of love comes from above, but it comes enclosed in as we said earlier, it comes enclosed in Hashem being enclosed in the world. Because we said earlier, you can't know Hashem himself, you can only know his expansion of his greatness. Now, is that Hashem's true greatness, that Hashem created a world? So here's an interesting thing. If Hashem would have a resume, he wouldn't even put the fact that he created the worlds on his resume. Why wouldn't he put, how you created? What a magnificent creation. Chazal say, for Hashem to create the world is a tremendous humility. It's below his stature. Because the worlds are finite, and he's infinite. It's not even a mashal. I'm going to use a mashal. It's like a Rembrandt or someone like that, an artist like that, who scribbles on a napkin, a little, or the stuff that he did when he was 3 years old. So he's a little embarrassed. Sometimes you hear these singers that become really, really well developed. You listen to their first album, and they themselves are embarrassed from their first album because they didn't yet. So the creation of the world is not considered a gedula by Hashem. It says b'makom an v'senusai, b'makom delasai, where we think is his great power. That's his humility. So you're not really. What he's really saying is what you're loving about the Eibishter is not really him. It's a nothing about him. But that's the only thing you can love based on your mind, because that's as far as your mind can reach. He makes himself known through each neshama's gate. Hashem is willing to reveal his light to us. Through what? Through our gate that we have as the gate of our mind. It's the shvach of the Eibishter, who is the husband of the Shechina, which is the husband of each and every one of us, where he makes himself known to us through the tiny little window of our mind. Now, even in this love, which is created, this yearning that's created through the mind, there is a state of katnus. Katnus means immaturity, and a state or smallness, and gadlus, which means expansiveness or maturity. That means in this itself, there's basically many, many, many levels. There is a very, very immature appreciation of Hashem's greatness. It comes from someone who hasn't really learned a lot, is just beginning to explore, right? So it's a very, 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 very simple kind of a knowledge. And then, obviously, the more one studies, the more one exercises their mind and expands, the greater. And as the mind grows, the love will also grow, incommensurate. The love to Hashem will grow. Chassidim, the old Chassidim, spent a lifetime, literally, davening 5-6 hours a day, meditating on Hashem's greatness, and developing this love. This is really what davening is all about. Today we forgot how to daven that way. But people would sit there and close their eyes and get lost in Ashrei for 2 hours. And if you try to tap them on the shoulder, they were not here because they just totally weren't aware that they're even in this world because they were meditating on the pasuk, Gadol Hashem Mohulol Mioid, Lugdalasai Ein Cheker. And that's enough to think about. They would be lost in the thoughts of Gadol Hashem for an hour. And obviously, you can imagine that by the time after an hour of thinking about this, their heart is on fire. They feel it. When you're young, you like smaller things. This thing is called the lower ratzon. It's called the lower ratzon because it's a ratzon that comes from the koches of the nefesh. It's not from the nefesh itself. It's not from the soul itself. It's from the koiches hanefesh, from the powers of the soul. Seichel umidos. The nefesh has kochos. It's the power of the intellect and the power of the emotions. Okay, this is all the explanation of the lower kind of love, the human love. This is called the roish. This is not called the gilgoles. This is not called the skull. Aval isratzein le'ela. There's a whole other level to Yiddishkeit, which if someone is lucky and the door opens up for a Yid to be able to rise beyond this level and to enter into a whole different zone, then this person experiences a type of connection to Hashem that is completely otherworldly. It's so intense and it's so powerful. Their love to Hashem is literally a love of madness. It consumes them from head to toe. They don't know what to do with themselves. And the reason is because it's no more the love of the intellect, of the mind. It's the love that's gushing forth from their Neshamah, where the neshama loves Hashem like a child loves a father. It's not coming from reasoning and understanding. Now, if the neshama is loving Hashem that way, it's not to any of Hashem's pu'ulos, it's not to anything that Hashem did, it's to Hashem himself. Even though we don't understand, like we said before, a child runs after their mommy, it's not because they know how their mother is, super mom, and this, she's such a special lady on all these levels, and she runs the Bikur Chaylim, and she does this, and she does that. Now, the child is 1 year old, versteht gar nicht. But still, the child is driven to the mother because it's driven to the mother's neshama, because they're one soul. That's the idea. Aval Isra Ratzon Li'ela, he's talking about there's a much higher Ratzon. B'shoirish HaNeshama. This is not in the neshama as the neshama comes down, meaning as the neshama becomes invested in the human element, but the shorish HaNeshama, the neshama as it is still in heaven, b'makor chaytzava, where the neshama is still rooted in its source from where the neshama has been excavated, b'chala olamais, where the neshama, and what it means b'chala olamais, I don't know if he means that the neshama's root in every world, or each neshama, depending where the neshamas come from, which world they're coming from. But ultimately, whichever world the neshama is coming from, it's coming from the divine manifestation of that world. Abiyah, which refers to four general worlds, which we discussed other times. Atzilus, Pri, Yetzir, and Asiya. Ubarasa lamata. And when that shines down into the person, while they're down here, their root of the neshama shines down into the neshama down here. B'pchinas Yashida shebenefesh. That's called the Yashida of the neshama. Haprati bebitl me'erach hasagase vaskolase mipnei oitzim reimemusa yizbarach. And at this moment, the person experiences a total disintegration, if I can say, of their beingness in front of the exaltedness of the true Eibishter's reimemus. The leis machshava tfisa where no one can grasp it. Ubitl kol an Avram legabatz musay mahusi yizbarach, and how all creatures and all beings are completely nullified to him completely. The kula kamei kala mamash chashiv, because everything before him is nothing. And again, this is not appreciated in the neshama in an intellectual way. The neshama senses Hashem's true greatness, who Hashem truly is, not in seichel, because you can't process this in the mind. The neshama senses this, feels this, and as a result of that, becomes completely bottle, because it realizes that all of existence is nullified in the Eibishter. And through this tisoider nefesh. So what does this do to the nefesh? This causes the nefesh. I'm skipping the parentheses for a moment. And through this tisoider nefesh lotzeis minar teika. At this moment, this causes the neshama to have such an intense desire to cleave to God, to cleave to Hashem, that the neshama wants to escape its container. And who's Zahaguf? That's the body. That's why there were in history of the Jewish people, the word tzaddikim, who died in a moment of deep, what should I call it? I don't want to use the word deep passion, because passion is considered external for something like this. Of deep ecstasy. I put it ecstasy. It's a deep ecstasy and bliss and an experience that's so intense. This is called dying a misas nashika. They just died out of the kiss with Hashem. Now, obviously, those who needed to die, they came to the end of their life. I'm not talking about that. They were taka, time's up. So the neshamas, being there with such perfect tzaddikim, Hashem allows them, Hashem opens up to their neshama his true self, and the neshama can't bear the sweetness, and the body can't contain it, and it just leaves the body. With those tzaddikim. Yeah, flame to flame. It goes into the greater fire, and it's nullified in it. Nadav and Avihu died that death. They didn't reach their end of their life, but they obviously did. They were young, but they reached such, that's what the Orach Chaim caused. It wasn't a punishment that Hashem was angry at them, they brought Keteris, they didn't listen. Their neshamas just blew a fuse because of the intensity of the experience, and they were drawn. Nadav and Avihu, the Zohar talks about certain Saba, elderly mystics, who died in their love to the Eibishter. Rabbi Avraham HaMalach, the son of the Mizritcha Magid, the Baal Shem Tov, as a student of Mizritcha Magid, he had a son, the Malach, who the Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the Baal HaTanya, was once together with him. And they were doing what they were doing, They were Isaac and Chassidus and whatever. Maybe they took a little break for a little meditation to concentrate on what they were learning. And suddenly the Baal HaTanya turned around and he saw the Magid is 3/4 there. Or maybe 90% there. And at the last minute he grabbed, there was a bagel there with butter. And he grabbed the bagel and he shoved it in his mouth. Something like this. And at that moment he brought him back. The Magid was always very, very makar toiv. He had tremendous hakaras toiv to his student, the Baal HaTanya, for saving his son's life. Because the son was called the Malach, because he was capable of such kind of ecstasy, of such a kind of an intense connection. So this is that kind of an experience. We don't know what that means because we've never felt something like this, but it's nice to know that it exists. Very soon when Mashiach will come, we're all going to be Zaycha to such Judaism. Yiddishkeit. Where we're going to have to turn around in shul and watch. We're going to have to instead of guarding, now they have guards now in front of the shuls. Instead of guarding from who knows, from kind of, we should guard inside shul not to let anybody get so intense. So we keep people grounded. Yes. It is possible from time to time that there is a very high neshama, and there's a time when what we call a matana is given from above. But generally, there's a lot of avoda that it takes before. The avoda api moichin, api seichel, and then when you reach the peak of that, then this is given as a gift from above. Yeah. V'hinei lezeh, for this kind of a feeling, ein chitzonius alev keli. The heart cannot hold this. Liyas'ava v'yiram or geshes boy. This type of love and fear cannot be contained in the heart. The chitzonius alev. Ki gavo mimenu, it is higher, it's too high. El tizbatel hanefesh mekoicheseha. The nefesh, in other words, you can't hold it as a love. The nefesh becomes nullified from its koiches. V'haya kalahaya, it's as if you reach a point where it's as if it doesn't exist. It's as you have you don't have any more sense of self because you're already. V'zeu b'chol ma'oitcha, and this is what we're told in Kriya Shema that we could reach. Love Hashem with all your ma'oid, more than what your keli can hold. Now the beautiful thing is, this is such an intense level of love, so high, but every Jew has it. The only difference is that at tzaddik, like the other love, the love that's created by your intellect, not every person has. If you develop it, you develop it. If you developed an appreciation for the godly, then you have it. If you never studied anything about Hashem, you never gave Hashem 2 thoughts, 2 minutes of thinking, so then you're not going to really have that love. You can't say that every Jew has that. Those who develop, why? Because it's manufactured by the mind. You create it. So those who create it have it. Those who don't create it don't have it. This love that we're talking about over here is a love that's really there because you're a Yid. It's not something you create. It's something you can discover, but you have it. And that's why he says every Jew has this love. And it's what we say, a pinta Yid. That's where you have Yidden that sometimes you go over to them and you try to do with them a mitzvah. In Lubavitch already we're holding 30, 40 years, more, 50, I would say 50 years of mitzvah campaigns where we Yidden are meeting people on the street, totally off, and on the second, get him to do a mitzvah, put on tefillin. And we have so many stories where there are Jews who are resistant. They don't want to put it on. And there's all kinds of technique. Those that are good at it have a lot of good technique. How to get the tefillin going. But in the end, the guy puts on the tefillin, and suddenly something happens, unbelievable. A dam breaks, and they start crying and weeping. The guy is a Holocaust survivor. He promised, he's so angry at God. Sometimes you have stories like that. The guy comes and he promised that he'll never go into a shul ever again. And therefore, when the guy comes to him and puts on tefillin, he yells at him, "Not me, get away from here." You have Yidden like that. Suddenly, for whatever reason, the guy got to him and he puts on the tefillin. And mysteriously, he starts crying like a baby. And he doesn't even know why he's crying. Why? Because he really has the love. Every Jew has this. It's just blocked from their consciousness. And at that moment, all the klipa, all that shells, all the muck and gook, because of the power of the mitzvah, just disappeared and allowed that deep Neshamah to come forth with all of its intensity. So, every single Yid has it. The holding back is it's not mislabish in the body. It stands in a state of makif. Makif means it's there, but you're not conscious of it. Lift the head. Lift up your lower rotzen. Which comes from meditating or contemplating Hashem's power in creation. Legabe rotzen elyon, lifted up to the higher rotzen. Shehu legilgoyles, lifted up to the skull. P'china shoyrish hanefesh, to the root of the nefesh. Up'chinas yachida, lifted up to the yachida. Hanoyled mehizboinenus bitul erach, and it's interesting. The Alter Rebbe is really saying that there is shayach to stimulate your yachida through his boinenus, but it's in his boinenus, not in the Eibishter's greatness that's within the world. It's in his boinenus that whatever is within the world is not him. He's beyond that. In other words, what he's saying is like this: that for tzaddikim, for people that are a little edel, they're able to decide during davening. I said, for most Jews, if they're lucky, they'll have this experience once in their lifetime, a moment when their Neshamah just opened up. But can a person achieve this through a conscious decision? Well, you could, and really, it's supposed to happen every time you daven. In the beginning of davening, you're working more through your mind, and by the time you get to Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu b'Shem Echad, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafsha, b'chol ma'oitcha, you're supposed to be there. But what does that mean? How do you get there? So first of these boinenus, it's like going into a palace. First you're seeing the greatness of the king in his wealth, in the external things, and then you come face to face to the Melech himself. So as he says, how the Nevraim have no erech at all to the Eibishter himself. L'chein Masha Kasa be'inyan krisus. I wonder if it means l'chein Masha Kasuf. What's this l'chein? I don't know what the Masha, the memshin is over here. Be'inyan krisus, regarding to curries. What's the idea, chas v'sholem? We know there is one of the punishments of the Torah is the punishment of curries. Simply it means, chas v'sholem, the person dies before they reach the age of 60. Or the age of 50. By Mitzvah Shemayim, it's 60. By Curries, it's 50, I think. So what's the deeper meaning, however, of Curries? Curries means cut off from your Neshamah. As he explains like this. Ki harishoyim aleim charates. People that are wicked. Now, in Chassidus, we have a whole different level for Rishoyim. Because we realize that a Beinani is a very high level. In the Tanya, he explains that a Beinani, a tzaddik, forget about it. A tzaddik is someone who doesn't have any Yetzer Hara anymore. That's a tzaddik. As long as you have a Yetzer Hara, you're not a tzaddik, according to the Tanya. He sets the bar very high. We're used to saying to our kids, such a tzaddik. It's a different level. It's a zat tzaddik. Yeah, but we're talking about the real meaning of a tzaddik. Someone who's not only never sins, but doesn't even have a thought of an avera. It just doesn't occur to them. Okay, that's a tzaddik. A beinani is someone who's always in control, never ever slips. That's a beinani. So we're all lower than the beinani. There's only one level lower than that. But that has millions of levels. But okay, the Eibishter put us into a world where for most of us, that's the best we can do. Okay, but what does it say? In our realm, it does say that Rishayim, which is most people, I don't want to chas v'shalom that it should be. Rishayim over here doesn't mean wicked, bad. Rishayim means weak. We're weak. We fall through from time to time. But what does Chazal say? That the wicked, the Rishayim, they're full of charatas, they're full of regrets. We all know that we do things that we shouldn't do. But we all also know that Baruch Hashem, at least we feel bad afterwards. Now, where does that feeling bad come from? Why is that like, where does Jewish guilt come from? And everybody knows this, it's Jewish guilt. That's what it is. Others don't have. And other people can go and do an avera and they don't feel anything. A Jew, kenished. He can sin afterwards once he forgets his guilt. But there's this terrible guilt. Where does the guilt come from? The guilt comes from this love of Hashem that a Jew has that's beyond reason. And you feel, deep inside, you feel that you've disconnected. And that hurts. That means even though you'll never feel your love in a positive way, it's like sometimes you have a relationship with your mother that is not necessarily in the positive. It's not like you're like, but you're always feeling guilty that you didn't call, you didn't do this, you didn't that. It's something very deep, but it's manifesting just in pain from a lack of, it could be. I'm going to get hurt. And that's what the Eibishter is the same thing. That we can at least experience that we have a deep connection to Him because of how bad we feel when we didn't do the right thing. That's a sign that we feel it. We feel it very deeply. That comes from the Yashida. So that means that it's really there, it's just makif, it's subconscious, it's there. But the whole avoid over here that he's talking about is connect to your skull. Meaning, don't leave it only as something you should feel as guilt, but that you should feel the love itself and allow that to be felt in your koiches hanefesh. Hamislapshin beguf. How do you connect to it? Matan Torah b'shvuos. Shvuos matan Torah. That is where, so it's Gavaldi. We have a powerful weekend coming ahead of us. We are gifted with the gift that we can all become so much deeper Jews. And our relationship with Hashem can find levels of meaning, of depth that we've never known before. On Shavuos, we can elevate ourselves from a connection that's based on what? On seichel, on reason. I'm doing a mitzvah because I'm expecting something in return. I want to get something out of it. Whatever you want to get out of it, but you want to get something out of it, or as opposed to a pure connection. I want to connect. Why? Where do we see that Shavuos has that power? Because on Shavuos we see that whenever Hashem spoke to them, Parcha Nishmasam, they passed away. Their souls flew out. Shahadibur, why? Because Shahadibur him shechmatz Musa Yizbarach. The Dibur was coming from Hashem's essence. And when Hashem exposes His essence to you, it touches you in your essence. It pulls you in. Anoichi Misha Anoichi. By Matan Torah, the Eibishter communicated from His very self. V'chein klal Torah, it's not only Anoichi. The whole Torah is Hu v'chachmasa echad. He and His chachma are one. V'tamei ha-Torah loy nizgalu da'antu chakim v'loy b'chachma yediyah. In other words, the true, because the Eibishter is one, because the Eibishter is one with His chachma. Not just the water over there. Hey, Yassel is here. Because the Eibishter is one, because the Eibishter is one with His chachma, therefore we say, and the Torah is Hashem's chachma, so that's where we say that even the Torah, Tamei HaTorah lo niskalu, the reasons of Torah we don't know. That means we know the mitzvahs, we don't know the reasons of the mitzvahs. That means we're not, because it's Him. And we can't know Him as we are today. You can't know Him. So, in other words, what he's saying is that the Etzem Torah is completely one with God. And therefore, it should be completely inaccessible to us. But just like we said before, Eibishter himself is not accessible. You can't grasp it. But, nevertheless, there is an element of Torah that you could understand. You could learn Masechtas Baba Kama. You could learn Masechtas Baba Metzia. You could learn Hilchos Shabbos and understand the halachas. So when you're teifis, however, the seichel of Torah that you're teifis, since ultimately in this is included and invested the Eibishter himself, via the Torah, the Eibishter himself is being channeled in a Yid's Neshamah. And as a result of that, it will pull forth this, it will attract, it will pull out this higher love of the Neshamah. In other words, you're using the Torah now as a means to channel, in other words, to connect that which is beyond Seichel to your Seichel. To leave it beyond Seichel is going to leave you with a Judaism full of just guilt. In other words, because, as I said, what I mean a Judaism with guilt. You can have love, but you're never going to get to experience the depth of connection. Hashem himself. And the only evidence of this deeper connection is going to come only in Jewish guilt, not in any positive way. If you want to channel the love in a positive way, that you should feel that in your drive, not just when you're lacking, but you should, every time you're doing a mitzvah, every time you're waking up as a Jew, you should feel driven with this infinite drive. That you need to bring this connection that you have, that is really not shaykh for it to come into a keli. You have to bring it into a keli. How do you bring it into a keli? Through Torah. Because Torah comes from Hashem's essence. Torah is not like creation. In Maisa Bereshis, in creation, as we said earlier, b'makom, it's Hashem's hanava. Hashem lowered himself down to create a world. Hashem is, in a sense, cheapening himself to create a world. It's not his true greatness. But in the Torah, Hashem put his emes of greatness into the Torah. So therefore, when you're grasping the Torah and understanding the Torah, you're channeling what we call atzmos mohus, the Eibishter himself, into your consciousness. And that enables that, I mean, obviously, it will trigger something that's not a conscious decision. In other words, you're deciding to learn, but as a result of that, when you're going to daven and you're going to meditate on you're going to concentrate in davening, you are going to discover this intense love. Well, you're not going to know where the love came from. In other words, a pull that's because of what you learned yesterday. I'm saying it's having an impact, even though you're not understanding the connection. As he says, the seichel of the person could grasp the chitzonius of the Torah. Why? Because it became enclosed in gashmiistic things, roim and moed, and so on and so forth. And when a person is medabik into the Torah, his seichel and his machshava, the lichtigkeit that's in it. See, Torah is called oir. Ma'or is the source of light. The source of the Torah, which is the ma'or, which is Hashem Himself, hu atzmusay mahusay yisbarach, which is Hashem Himself, hamalubish ba machziroi lamutiv, brings him back to goodness. This is the chiddush of Chassidus and Limud HaTorah. Limud HaTorah not just for the sake of knowing Torah, but learning Torah for the connection with Hashem that comes via the Torah that you're learning. Piddish, and that's the meaning. It says, but here's an amazing thing. It says, Hamor Shaba Machziroi. It doesn't say Machziroi L'toiv. It says Hamor Shaba Machziroi L'mutav. Is that the Lashon? Why? Because there's two things. There's Ma'or. What's Ma'or? Ma'or is a luminary. The sun is a Ma'or. And then there's Oir. Oir is light. Then there is Toiv. And there is Mutav. Toiv is the source and Re. Toiv is Vayara Lekim es Oir ki Tov. So light and Tov are synonymous. They go together. Ma'or and Mutav go together. So here's the thing. When you're learning Torah, you're engaging in the light. Torah is the light. And you're processing it in your koiches hanefesh, which are what? Also your light, your illumination. Koiches hanefesh are not your essence. Your powers of your soul are not your essence. It's your koyach of your seichel. It's your koyach of your emotions. So your toiv with the Eibishter's oyer are connected. But now that you're learning, through the learning, you're reaching the ma'or sheba, that which is hidden in the Torah that you don't see. That's the ma'or. And what is it? Machziroi l'mutav. It puts you in touch with your essence of your being. That's the kasher. Od medavik pirish ki toiv uziva oyer agonas l'tzadikim shenehenen. Toiv is the light of the tzadikim that they're nehenen. They delight in the ziva shchina. Umutav hu makar hatoiv. It's the source of good. Hagaval amayla b'shorshay, that is much higher. Achine, however, ubachanois hamishkan, when the Mishkan camps, what does that mean? Ubachanois hamishkan, when the Mishkan camps, this whole process of Su'as Rosh B'nai Yisroel, L'Gilgaloisam, happened when? What does Rashi say? When did they count the Yidden? When were the Yidden counted in the Midbar? Rashi says, Bala Hashra Shchinasai, because the Eibishter was now Mashra the Shechina. That's why he counted them. This was right in the beginning of Bamidbar. Why is he counting them now? Because they just made a Mishkan. Be'echad b'Nisan hukam ha-Mishkan, be'echad, it's the first Rashi in Bamidbar. Be'echad b'Iyar, on. So you see that the counting, what's the point of the counting according to the Alter Rebbe? It's not stam counting. It's to lift Bnei Yisrael up, l'Gilgal Loisa. So where is that happening? When there is a Mishkan. Why? It takes God's Gilui Shechina in the Mishkan to create such a... Hashem has to be so close that we should... Yeah, it's obviously, it's the idea of a magnet. When he is close, we feel him, and we're excited. What happens? The pasuk says, "Ubachanoisa Mishkan," and what the deeper meaning of Chanoisa Mishkan means when the Mishkan goes down. So what does that mean? So he says, "Ubachanoisa Mishkan, shehu Sukas David Hanoifelas." The Mishkan is referring to the Sukas David Hanoifelas, which is the Shechina. And when she goes down means regaleho yered. That's when she goes down in exile, when her feet go down in golos. Which means it's a time that there is a certain disconnect between Knesset Yisroel and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there is a Yakumu Oisei HaLeviim. The Leviim are able to reset this. The Leviim are able to reignite this love. What does that mean? Gimel B'chinas Gershon Kahas Merari. So we have the three families of the Leviim: Gershon, Kahas, and Merari. It's these three powers of the three powers of the Leviim. Yakimu Oisei HaLeviim is to lift up the Mishkan, this dwelling of the Eibishter and the Yid's Neshamah. It's through the three powers of the Leviim. So what is that? B'chinas Gershon le'kafil sitra achra. Gershon comes from the word girush, drive out. Number one is azay. When a Yid finds himself in a lot of darkness, that's what it means. When a Yid's neshama goes down, because we're in this world, sometimes we take our and we end up in a dark place. And then you wonder, what in the world happened to me? How am I going to restore my gilui? How am I going to be a mishkan to the Eibishter? How am I going to connect? How am I going to have this kind of a love? So you have to activate the three families of the Leviim inside of you. After a situation where there's a lot of darkness, people go through ups and downs, and suddenly you find yourself in a dark place. So you need, in order to reestablish your mishkan, your kimu oisei haleviim, there are three families. The first avodah is you can't continue sinning. If you continue sinning, there's no space for kedusha to come down. So what you need to do is gershon. You need to activate. Now, in general, the Leviim, in Kabbalah, it says an interesting thing, that Kohanim, their energy is chesed. The Leviim, their energy is gevura. There are two powers. Chesed is love, and gevura is discipline. So, in order to get your Mishkan back up, you have to activate your disciplining powers, which are the Leviim. And the Leviim have three families: Gershon, Kahas, and Merari. Each one of them, besides being a physical family, it's also a spiritual. Each of them embodied a certain spiritual energy. Gershon has the ability. Gershon comes from the word geresh. Geresh means to drive out. A Yid has the ability to say to himself, enough is enough. This is garbage. This is not good. This is not contributing anything into my relationship with Hashem. Out the door. I'm cleaning house. That's to drive out whatever it is that you feel might be interfering with your connection to Hashem. Merari means not just enough to drive it out. Merari comes from the word marar, which is bitter. There has to be afterwards a certain bitterness about what? About the negative things that were there. There's a yin of tshuva. There is a tshuva. There's a certain tshuva, a bitterness on the. And we know what it says we learn in Tanya. It says what it says in the Zohar, that when a person has a lot of klipa, a lot of blockages. What are we talking about over here? We're talking about clogging. There's a lot of blockages. The arteries, your spiritual arteries are clogged. You can't feel the Eibishter. So how do you break ruach nishbara? How do you break the ruach of klipa? So it says, Zivchei Elokim ruach nishbara leiv nishboi v'nitka, a broken heart. It's the bitterness when a Yid has a moment of tshuva and bitterness that itself breaks the klipa off his heart. And then all that garbage goes away, and then you can feel again. You can restore the bond. So that's what he says. Gershon is kafil the sitra achra, to subdue the sitra achra, ulevarara. Number one, chase the evil out. V'sashlich b'metzilos yam. Take the avera, the negative, pour it into the sea. Merari, what's merari? Lismar meral yeridazu. It has to bother a person. Why have I fallen so low? Why am I so disconnected? Why am I so? And that will bring you to kahas. What is the word kahas? Kahas comes from the word to gather. As it says about Mashiach, v'lo yikas amim, and to him nations will gather. So what does that mean? When a yid, something very, very, very gishmak. What are the three families? After a yid, the first avodah is gershon. Anything that's not productive in my relationship with God, with the Eibishter, and maybe it's, I gotta delete it. I gotta get at it. I gotta get it out of my life. Number two, I go through a process of, it bothers me. If it doesn't bother you that there's no spiritual light in your soul, and you're kind of satisfied, a person is kind of satisfied in being stuck in the muck. It doesn't even occur to them that they're lacking something. They're enjoying just the gashmias of this world. Cheesecake on Shavuos is good enough for me. I don't need any spiritual light on Shavuos. I'm fine as long as I have this scrumptious cheesecake. I'm such a good. How was Shavuos? The cheesecake, unbelievable. It's Matan Torah. The Eibush is giving you the Torah. That you feel God in your life. So so at least we should be bitter in the sense that if we're not feeling it. So the next thing is it has to bother you. That's the mirari. Once you have that, you know what happens? That not only does the klipa go away, but those very, very dark things are transformed to powers that generate even greater love to Hashem, and greater. As we know, that absence makes the heart fond. That dafka, the distance that came because of the sins, creates, after you're doing tshuva, creates even a greater longing and a desire, and then the avera becomes a mitzvah, the merit. Right? That's the meaning of kahas. V'lo yikas amim. To him, nations will gather to Mashiach. The very nations that persecuted the Jewish people. The very nations they turn around and will transform and become allies. So spiritually, it means a person has all the nations inside his heart. All the Gentiles are inside his heart. That's all the klipa. A Jew, what's a Jew? A Jew is a heart that loves Hashem. That's a Jew. When we have all kinds of other loves and all kinds of other distractions, that's because we have a whole United Nations in our heart. We need to now take these chevra, and convert them. And the avodah is a three-prong avodah. Gershon, Merari, and finally kahas. V'lo yikasamim. V'layla kayoim yo'ir. And night will start shining like day. Kechashecha ka'oira, like darkness, like light. Zedoinus nasis kezochias. Sins, intentional sins, becomes merits. V'zeu avodas alavim lahakima menufulasa. To lift up from its fall. Avodas kahanim, and what's the kahanim? Ubo ahar navonov. Ki oimer ein li elitog kolshke moshev chad v'lato achiviana chazasta darke ad les machshev tvisa be v'yesh lis galos lis pashul gersenesh achevese v'day lemevin. Okay, for that you have to learn the whole mimer that we learned earlier a few years ago, which I didn't learn now. And what does he mean that the kahanim come in afterwards? Okay, it's good enough if we have what the Levium do. What the kahanim do? Okay, we'll find out another time. Anyways, I'm stopping over here. Short share before Shavuos. If you want more goodies, come Shavuos by night. We're going to have a lot of good classes. L'chaim. The order was Gershon, Merari, then? Yes, even though in the Seder it seems like Gershon, Kahas, and Merari. How come? Either way, you can't have the Merari before you do Gershon. Yeah, Gershon is always first. It sounds like you should have regret then decide to do the Gershon. No, because you can't feel the bitterness until you get it out.
And another she used to say, just like you said when you were learning that you would turn your access Hashem. You had another she said like when you're learning your mamash and like I think you were God like in Hashem's.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
It's the same, just.
But here we're talking about the etzem learning. Here we're talking about the consequence of that in terms of ava, in terms of love. That this will lead you to that higher ava. Yeah. I wanted to really learn the next mimer, Ben Esrim Shana. It's a very cryptic mimer, and definitely. All right. Yeah, we'll leave it at this. Thank you. Good Yom Tov. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Daron, what's going to be? Ariella, how are you? Did you make up with Mushka for tomorrow?
What? Yes.
Okay, we're all planned out. Thank you.
You all ready for vigor?
I didn't even start yet. Oh, I didn't bring Chalin today. You know why? Yeah. Okay, let me tell you why.